Today, I want to welcome my longtime friend, Tommy Lampley, who is a very experienced CRA in oncology. And today, he's going to teach people what a CRA is and some paths to get into that job. And so, for those of you looking at this job, you definitely want to watch. So, Tommy, you and I worked together many, many years ago, and that relationship started because you had the goal of becoming a CRA. So, first, can you please describe for people what a CRA does and what your path was to get here today? You're well respected long term CRA specializing in oncology trials, and I think it's been a fascinating path.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if I may, I'd just like to thank you all these years later for that opportunity, because it was critical in the path and the knowledge process, knowledge gathering process of getting into the industry as a clinical research associate. So, what's a CRA? A clinical research associate is an individual that I would describe as the liaison between a sponsor and a research site during the conduct, or not just during, before the conduct, during, and as the process of closeout occurs. That really just works with the site, works with the sponsor to ensure patient safety is happening per protocol at the research site.
That's perfect. So, what was your path like to get there?
So I would consider my path a little different than traditional. And everyone's path I've heard as I've traveled through the years now as a CRA, going on different co-monitoring visits and meeting CRAs that have come from different walks, different industries. Everyone's path is a little different. So mine started with me at an early age having a knowledge of knowing I wanted to be in medicine in some respect. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a physician, went through the path of being pre-med in college. I was a biology major until I had a chance to work in a research lab. And from there, I just really uh, fell in love with the process of the thought of getting a drug to market or helping to contribute to a drug. And it's not an intuitive process in terms of working in a bench in bench research as a undergrad to what comes next after that. And so I had a chance to do a master's in biotechnology at Georgetown, and there I really learned a lot of the nuances of what it takes to get a drug to market. And a part of that is after bench research, the process of clinical development for candidates that make sense. And I had a class called the Financial Matrix of Biotechnology. And in that class, it really broke down the different aspects or the different sects at which you see different skill sets involved in the drug development process. And so that's when I learned about one, a clinical research coordinator, and I learned about a clinical research associate. And a graduate student version of myself really didn't know the difference. And so I can recall after graduate school, applying to a bunch of CRA positions, applying to a bunch of CRC positions. And I didn't have, if you don't have any experience, it's very difficult to get hired. And so, I was unsuccessful for months until I had an opportunity to uh, work or intern at a research site called Southeast Regional Research Group. And from there, I had an opportunity to actually learn, really what on the ground is going on in a research study. It's one thing to read about it. It's one thing to have some textbook learning and quizzes on that process. But it's another thing to actually have a chance to walk into a research site, liaise with study coordinators, liaise with principal investigators, and see what it is that's going on. And so my internship really exposed me to just the process of data entry, the process of subject visits, the process of CRAs actually coming to the research site and what a CRA actually did once they came there. And so through that internship opportunity, I had a chance to meet several CRAs. I can admit to busting in on their lunch breaks and just being really inquisitive in how they got started and what they did. And so what I learned just in that was really one, which companies to start applying to, how to format my resume with my newfound experience. And then also I just learned more about what other CRAs, what other industries they came from. And so what I found is you don't have so many people going straight from graduate school like I did. So I find I really consider myself very fortunate to have had the opportunity to do that. You see a lot of individuals that were previous study coordinators, and I'll admit, I think study coordination is the the skill set that gives you the best tools, the best eyes, the best experiences to be an excellent CRA just coming in. I think I had a really steep learning curve. Fortunately, I had some good training, to become a competent CRA. But study coordinators, I think, having that experience, having interacted with CRAs, having actually seen patients enter data, they have a different level of knowledge with reference to the skill set. And then another arena I've seen individuals come from are actually being RNs. They have a different skill set that is very, particularly in oncology, very intuitive to what you're doing in terms of being able to read charts, understanding what certain medications are, understanding how certain events may or may not be related. So even though I didn't have either of those previous backgrounds, I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to get to the right place to ultimately become a clinical research associate.
You pointed out a couple of you kind of already answered my question because you came from a biology and biotech background. And of course, not everyone's going to have that. But then you went into, there's a nursing background and a study coordinator background. What skills that I do think it would be easier and probably more advantageous if a person started as a coordinator in most cases. You just happen to be very intelligent, great common sense, great at learning, and interned at the best place ever. No one even knows that company anymore. It's changed names. But so you did go through that, and I'm going to ask you a little bit about internships. But without that, what skill sets in general do you think that people are looking for in a CRA?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are uh, a baseline of skill sets that one really does need to have. I think because of my grad school background and having been, pretty well versed in recent Microsoft Office technologies, that it helped out. I think that is a baseline skill set. Just being functional in Excel, functional in Word, functional in Outlook, which is the email exchange a lot of companies use. Um, but beyond that, beyond being functional, being organized in your functionality. What's the use of having all these tools if you don't know how to actually interact with them? So just really being able to understand your commitments from multiple levels because as a CRA, as I mentioned, you're the liaison between the sponsor and the study site. So that means you have individuals that you're interacting with in multiple areas from multiple companies. What comes along with that are emails that come from different directions, depending on how many protocols you're on. They could come at a very high frequency. You could have multiple meetings for multiple studies, even multiple clients if you work with a large CRO. So you could be working for doing a GI study for one client and be on a breast cancer study on another, two totally unrelated indications. But you'd have to figure out how to keep everything straight and understand the nuances and difference between those two protocols. What PK time point do you have for this protocol versus the next? So just really having an organized and being motivated to be organized attitude, I think are pretty critical skill set to have.
actually love that you said that, and it's not something I've thought about in doing this series at all. And but I cannot tell you how many times my training with a person, a coordinator or a CRA, has been teaching them how to create categories in Outlook, how to have a follow up system, whatever it is, the organizational skill. I mean, if a person doesn't like email and sorting email and responding to email, it's actually not the right business for them.
And you're in for a rough day to day because that's a
That's
very
true.
core skill. Absolutely.